Welcome back to the second part of the interview with Jenna Lewinski. This is Rabbi Roger coming to you from Israel, and that was Jenna blowing the shofar that was made from one of her Jacob sheep. In the first part, we heard about her and her husband fleeing from South Africa because of the problems they ran into with potential thieves and murderers. So they knew they needed to go to Canada so they would be safe. Fast forwarding a bit, they finally arrive in Canada, but not with the intent of raising sheep or living on a farm. They just wanted a normal life. But how did you come into the sheep?
So when we arrived in Canada, we first arrived in Toronto, but then later we moved, a month or two later, we decided to settle in Vancouver. It was a Valentine's Day and I received a little bunny, a lionette bunny. And it was really cute because I love animals. And the next day, when I woke up, the bunny had three little bunnies. That was kind of unexpected because I didn't realize that the bunny was even pregnant. Yeah, so when I woke up the next morning and there was three little bunnies, I was in shock. And so I took photos of them and put them on Craigslist just to start to look for good homes for them because I figured soon we'll have lots and lots of bunnies and we just really wanted one cute bunny. So immediately I received an email back from a girl called Jordan. And she grew up on a ranch that had Jacob sheep, but I didn't know this. And she emailed me and said she waited her whole life for this specific color that the one lionette bunny was. It was a very unusual color, totally different from the mom's color. And so we started to talk for a few weeks while the bunny was growing up and organized transport for the bunny to Vernon in British Columbia. It's like up the Coca-Cola Highway into the Rockies. And we stayed friends. And the bunny would cause a lot of drama because she'd ask many questions about the bunny back and forth. And I spent a lot of hours speaking to her just about the bunny and its care and what it was doing and things. We had a wonderful friendship. And then one day she called me at work and asked me if I could take the Jacob sheep because they needed to leave the ranch. And it came kind of very unexpected at work. I was busy doing financial statements, was stressful. So I told her yes, because she asked me if I would help the Jacob sheep. And I said yes, because I thought she just needed a check or something like that to help them. But she saw on my Facebook that I was Jewish. And she already understood the significance and the story of the Jacob sheep. They've been over 100 years on this ranch, the Jacob sheep and all their descendants. And she was well aware of the history of Jacob sheep. And she felt because I'm Jewish, it's about time the Jewish people meet the Jacob sheep. But I would only find this out a lot later down the journey that this was her intention. So we ended up taking in the Jacob sheep. It came very unexpected on a truck, very fast. Everything happened very, very fast. We didn't have a farm. We lived, in a basement rental. And so the sheep arrived very, very unexpectedly. And one ran away across the street and went missing in the night and showed up at the candidate for mayor. He was busy campaigning. He wasn't elected yet, but he was campaigning. So he put a photo of the sheep on his Facebook page and said it was a goat. And so I had to go there early in the morning to find our sheep, which we called Kala, our matriarch. And she ran to a farm.
And Kala is the Hebrew word for bride.
Bride, yes. Because that night when she went missing in the fog, we couldn't find her, we couldn't sleep, and my ex-husband Gil had a dream in the night, and it felt to him like ancient Israel that he was dreaming. So by the morning, before we even knew if we would find her or not, he told me her name is Kala. He wanted to call her the bride because he wasn't completely bought into the idea of having Jacob sheep, and he wasn't sure about the story of Jacob sheep at this point. But after this night of Kala disappearing, going to the new mayor candidate who became the mayor after that, he was elected. And
because of the sheep? Because of the sheep, he got elected, do you think?
We will never really know the truth, but she was definitely a good luck for him. because he got a lot of attention on his collection campaign by posting it everywhere about the sheep that showed up in the middle of the night next to the bulls on the field.
Hmm. Well,
And
let me back
and
up.
he
Let me
did
back
love
up
it
just
very
for a
much.
second. Let me back up just for a second. You mentioned that the lady who gave you the sheep gave it to you because you're Jewish and felt
Yes,
that's where its
I found that
heritage is
years
supposed that's
later
where it's
out
supposed to
only.
be. So why is it important that a Jewish person should have the sheep and not someone who's Gentile?
I don't know. I never actually asked her that particular question, but there is some clues in the Bible. It always talks about returning the livestock to their rightful owners. There's a lot of verses about that in the Bible. I guess 2000 years ago, when the sheep parted with the Jewish people and the temple got destroyed, and they went to North Africa, and many nations were their custodians, including how they came to Canada was through the Buckingham Palace, and they were in the royal. The sheep was by the royal British royal household had the sheep, and they were traded through the Commonwealth to Canada to the zoos at some point in the early 1900s. And there's still a large population of Jacob sheep in the UK, but I'm digressing. So basically, I think it was just the sheep mirror the people, because as the people were dispersed around the world, the sheep was. When the Jews started to come back, I think the sheep needed to come back too. Only when we discovered the sheep did we discover all the verses about returning the sheep, because we started to research and some verses were shown to us. And so we understood it was very significant for the national animal of the Jewish people also to return to Israel. And there was a lot.
Explain real briefly how did the sheep come about, from the Bible?
Okay, so there were actually Laban's sheep, and Jacob earned them as wages. He had an agreement with his uncle Laban that he would get all the spotted and speckled sheep. And at this point, Laban was a trickster because there wasn't much spotted and speckled sheep. But with the popular rods, there was a like a genetic selective breeding method that Jacob discovered, that by putting these rods in the water, even scientifically, it doesn't make 100% sense, but it's a spiritual thing, that the sheep will always be spotted and speckled. And so his flock became more numerous than Laban. And it says that Laban's son's disposition changed towards Jacob. What it really means is they got jealous of him because he was so numerous in flocks. And I always say Rachel was the first shepherd of the sheep. Really, it should have been Rachel's sheep, because it was through her marriage that Jacob acquired the sheep, marriage to Leah and Rachel, that he acquired the sheep. So, but it became Jacob's sheep because he actually was the man of the household, and also he literally earned them as wages legally from working for his uncle for so many years. And at some point, they obviously had to leave also Laban, because his disposition apparently also changed towards them. And yeah, so this is where Jacob's sheep comes from, that they're always spotted and speckled. And when we sheared our sheep the first year, we were so excited. We knew they were spotted because we could see it on the wool. But when we actually sheared the wool, we saw the fine speckles on the skin under the wool. And that's when we looked and we said, this is definitely the Jacob sheep.
And when you
Another
say fine
discovery with the wool.
speckles, are you referring to specks of like flecks of like almost like a gold, or
Yeah, it's like little blacks and brown specks on the skin. It's like, um, like humans, they can have speckles.
Mm-hmm.
So on their skin, under the wool, you can see all the speckles, and then the spots you can see on the wool by the coloring. And then another very pleasant surprise was when we sheared the sheep for the first time. We went for wool classes at a very kind lady. She was willing to teach us the art of processing the wool. So when we started, she told us to first wash the fleeces, and after that we sort of got rid of all the bad parts of the wool that had grass and other things in. Then the second part was we had to split all the colors into bags. So we take black, and then we found brown, and we found white, and we found gray. And there's even like a blue hueish tint on some of the wool, and like different colors came out, so many. And we started to see, well, Jacob's son had Joseph had this multicolored coat. So we started to look back at what multicolored coat could mean. It could mean all these colors of Jacob's sheep, the grays, the whites, the blacks, the browns, all of this together in the coat makes it multicolored, because there's at least 9 colors that come out of this wool when you process it separately. So, maybe the coat wasn't blue, yellow, pink, like we think multicolored, but it could have just been natural multicolored from the sheep. And maybe
is that a
that's why.
combination of all the sheep, or is that just from one sheep can have multiple colors?
Well, each sheep has at least 3 or 4 different colors, because they have white, they definitely have a brown or a black spot. And so we had sheep that had like a bluish tint as well. So, and like a very, very different brown than the others. So I think the multicolors come from a few sheep. If you put all the colors together, you can have a few, like take 3 or 4 coats and make different colors from them. So we found that very interesting, and then we understood why maybe the brothers were so jealous of this coat, because it can actually be very magnificent if you take all the different colors and create something beautiful.
Yeah, sounds very pretty.
Yeah, so that's why they felt maybe that the father loved him more than the others.
So you came into the sheep and you've had to move around a few times. How much does it cost to feed them just for 1 month?
In the beginning, it wasn't much because we had 14 sheep, but then they lambed. And like Schindler's List, we say we were for sheep. We collected sheep that was due for the butcher's knife, and people that just needed to throw them off their ranches because of the drought that was going on in Canada. And so we collected quite a lot of sheep that we got within a year and a bit, to 119 sheep, from lambing our own and also acquiring other flocks that we eventually had to purchase. And yeah, so the feeding bills over time, and in the drought when the bale prices tripled, started to add up to quite a lot a month. I think there was a time towards the last few months that we couldn't spend under 1,000 Canadian dollars just feeding the sheep. That's not just, then there's their housing, and we had to always keep the best medical records for our animals, because the goal was to send them to Israel. So we didn't skip vaccines, we didn't skip routine dewormings, we didn't skip, like, we were very heavy on vitamins, on a lot of conditioning things, whatever was available to us at the vet or at the animal feed store to enhance our animals, whether it's vitamins or something good for their health or whatever. We would definitely purchase it. Also trimming nails and or anything that would keep our animals in best shape. And so we also were heavy on lambing equipment. We had very sophisticated lambing equipment, because every lamb, we didn't want to lose one. So, we had everything.
Well, unfortunately, it looks like we're out of time. But does Jenna get them to Israel? Is the process the same for them, just like a human? I mean, after all, they only need to go in the belly of an aircraft, or do they? Do they get a meal on this flight? The biggest question to ask is, what makes these sheep so special that they need to go to Israel? Are they the real deal? Or is she just being fooled and this whole thing is a waste of time? Well, I guess you'll just have to listen in next time and find out for yourself. You may read her entire story on her website at migdaleder.com. In the meantime, be sure and visit our website, branchofisrael.com, to listen to our other broadcast. And if you want to learn how to say the Hebraic prayers, then purchase my book, Hebraic Prayers from the Vine, and learn them with a native Israeli and hear how to say them like a real pro. You may get this and more at our website, so feel free to visit us today. Until then, thank you so much for listening. Lehitrot, goodbye, or see you again.